I'm going to talk to you guys about the Phantom AI video model. Based on the immensely popular Wan video model, Phantom has a few extra tricks up its sleeve. Specifically, it allows you to take images of different objects, whether they're a person, a product, a place, and put them all together in a new video generation. This is incredibly powerful in case you want to put two people together, you want to give a product to a person and have them do something with it, or you want to take somebody and put them in a different location. Phantom can even take the clothes off of one image and put them on your character and create a video where this character is wearing those clothes and doing something else. Phantom brings with it a whole bunch of possibilities, and today I'm going to show you guys how to get started with using this model both on a cloud AI platform where you can use Phantom 14B in its full form with absolutely no restrictions, as well as how you can use it locally on your system through ComfyUI. And I'll cover different solutions based on what kind of GPU you have. In theory, you should be able to run this model with a GPU with as little as 4 gigs of memory. However, I haven't tested it myself. This is research that I've gathered from over the internet, so you guys will have to let me know down in the comment section below if you can actually achieve that. Now, I normally also have a self-hosted G-Radio solution, which is user-friendly interface that you can host on your own hardware or on Runpod. However, the Phantom model did not come with a G-Radio UI, so I am trying to build it from scratch myself. Once it's done, I'll share it over on my Discord, my Patreon, I'll make a YouTube post about it, and I'll announce it over in my newsletter. So if you're interested in staying up to date, sign up for one of those. Links are down in the description below. And if you want to help me get there a little bit faster, your support makes all the difference. I try and put out many of these resources for free, so if you're interested in helping me get them out faster, please do consider supporting me either through KaijuGen or through my Patreon, as I will try and put more resources towards getting out these G-Radios faster. In fact, I'm actually trying to put together a all-in-one G-Radio solution to make available to everyone. So your support makes it possible. And without further ado, let's dive right in. So the first solution I'm going to show you guys is how to use Phantom 14B on my image and video generation platform, KaijuGen. This is a little image and generation platform that I've put together to help me consolidate all of the AI models that I like to use, and I decided to share it with you guys. It is a paid platform. However, there's no subscriptions. It's pay as you go, so you can put as little as you want and just use it as you want. I will be adding some subscription options as people have asked for it, but the goal here is for you to get started with as little as $5. However, if you do decide to use KaijuGen, know that you're directly supporting me and this channel, and any issues that come up, I usually deal with within 24 hours. You can just message me on Discord, shoot an email to the support email, or I have a little help and report button down here, which gives me an error report and I can look into it. So the version of Phantom that I have over here on KaijuGen is the full version, absolutely unquantized, and it does not use CosVid. That does mean that each generation takes about 7 to 10 minutes, but the goal here is for you to get the best quality version. I will add a fast mode that incorporates CosVid if you want to work a little bit faster, but to get started, come down here and pick video as your option and select the model over here. We've got 14B over here. Or alternatively, you can go to models, filter by video, and then we've got Phantom 14B over here. To make use of it, click on the advanced parameters down here, click on this little image icon over here, and you can set your 2 subjects over here. For this particular video, I've set this blonde girl over here, Lydia, which is one of my AI characters, and this red-headed. I'll have the images pop up here so you know what the character references look like. You can go ahead and drop your prompt over here, and then we've got a few parameters that you can manipulate over here. The goal is to give you as many parameters as I can equivalent to what you would get in ComfyUI. So you can set the task over here. In this case, we're using subject to video. However, Phantom also supports text to video, text to image, and image to video. Image to video is not here. That will be coming by the time this video comes out. We've got a whole bunch of size options, everything from 480 by 480 up to 1280 by 720. Over here, you can set the number of frames that you want. 121 frames should give you about 15 to 20 seconds, which is pretty long. However, keep in mind, the longer your video, the more chance of things getting wonky occurring. Over here, we've got our sample steps, which affects the quality of the generation. And then we've got our sample shift, sample guide scale for text to video, sample guide scale for image to video. And what these do is this impacts the attention that the model puts on your images. So if you're not getting the right result or they're not transferring over correctly, try manipulating these parameters. So I prepared a couple of videos earlier from KaijuGen so you can see what the results look like. I've got the original images over here on the right and the video over here on the left. And you can see here in the first image, I took Lydia and our redheaded character over here. And the prompt was that the two women were walking down the street wearing the same coat. And you can see that it's done a very good job of transposing those characters over. And for the most part, the character transfer is almost perfect. That definitely looks like Lydia. It does change slightly when she turns her head and then turns back to the camera, but for the entire first part of that video, it's almost perfect. Okay, here we've got another one where I put a beach destination as the first image and Lydia as the character, and I just put women running on the beach with sports clothing, and it's done a pretty good job of maintaining the character identity of Lydia. It's changed her clothes and it's put her in a beach location that looks very similar to the image I provided. I purposely put a low quality image just to see what the model would do. And while it's not the exact location, the general shape of the location has been maintained. So I'd say it did a pretty good job overall. I did try out one more prompt because it should be possible to do this in theory. I have this picture of Lydia and this picture of another redheaded character, and the prompt was for Lydia to be walking down the street wearing the outfit of the redheaded character. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out. This is what the video looks like. The quality is phenomenal, unless you've got a sharp eye and notice this car in the background is a little bit wonky. But unfortunately, it didn't take Lydia with the outfit. This is one of those situations where probably if we manipulate the advanced parameters a little bit, we could get the desired result. If I am able to get this up and running, I will post it over on my Discord. So if you want to know what parameters I'm using to get better results, please do come by the Discord and check it out. And that's how you get started using the Phantom 14B model over on KaijuGen. But what if you want to run it locally or you want to run it on ComfyUI? Well, I'm going to show you guys how to do that as well. Now, I typically do my ComfyUI videos on a hosted instance over on Runpod. So I'm going to show you guys how you can get up and running on that. And the reason I do that is because I just don't have a powerful enough GPU at home to run a lot of these models. However, everything we're going to cover here, you can do at home on your own machine, given that you have a powerful enough GPU. For those of you following along over on HubSpot, I have a link down below which allows you to use my ComfyUI template. The reason why you want to use this is I've actually gone ahead and made a whole bunch of improvements to the way the ComfyUI starts out so that the models and nodes are downloaded and set up instantly so you can get started right away. If you click that link, you'll get taken to a page like this where you can pick the GPU that you want. For today's video, I've picked the A100 PCIe with 80 gigs of VRAM because I'm using the 14 billion parameter version of the model. However, in theory, if you use the 1.3 version and some of the memory saving techniques we'll go over a little bit later, you can bring down that usage to as low as 4 gigs. With the 14 billion parameter model though, I did find that even the 48 gig VRAM option fell a little bit short when trying to run the model in its full capacity. That's why I'm going for the 80 gig version. So we're going to grab here this PCI 100, and then you'll see over here that the template is already set. If it's not set, click over here on Change Template and just look for the ComfyUI Basic Endangered AI. Go ahead and click that, and then click on Edit Template. Come down here to the public environment variables, and you'll see that we have a whole bunch of models and nodes that you can select to automatically get set up when you start ComfyUI. I have a few that are already set as on by default, including the low VRAM option over here, as well as which allows you to see the GPU, CPU, and RAM usage of your ComfyUI build. I've also got here WAN Vace 2.1 as well as WAN Phantom 14B. So we're going to set the WAN Phantom 14B to 1, set the overrides, and go ahead and click deploy. Once you do that, you'll get taken to this pods page and you'll see your pod over here. If you want to see how your pod is doing, click on logs and you'll be able to see here everything that the pod is doing and the models that is downloading. It does take a few minutes to get set up, especially if you're starting this up as a brand new pod. However, once it's done, you'll be able to jump right in. You'll know it's done when you see this line over here at the very bottom where it says to see the GUI, go to HTTP 00008188. Or you can just click the connect button and you'll see that both of these services are green. Let's go ahead and click that and you'll be able to jump into ComfyUI right away. And the best part is everything is already pre-installed. Now, if you're following at home, you're probably going to want to know what you need to install and what needs to go where. Let's start with the custom nodes that you need to install. So if we go to the Customs Node Manager and we look at the installed options, if we look at this list, the nodes that we absolutely need to run the Phantom 14B workflow is the ComfyUI KJ nodes and the ComfyUI Video Helper Suite. The Chris Tools and Control Net Auxiliary are optional. Once you've done that, you're probably wondering what models do you need and where do you need to put them. Well, the great news is the workflow that I have linked down below, which is a modified version of the one that Kai provides, has all the information that you need. I will also put that same information down in the description below. So, what are the models that you need? Well, first and foremost, we need the actual model. We've got a few options over here, and these are different versions of the model compared to the ones you'll get on the Alibaba page. What Kijai has done is he's gone and taken the split up model and put it all into a single file. We've got here the 1.3 billion parameter version, which is at a floating point of 16. And then we've got two options for the 14 billion parameter model. We've got the 14 billion floating point 16 and the 14 billion floating point 8. In case you don't know what that means, floating point refers to the accuracy of the model. So in terms of size and resources, the 14 billion floating point 16 is going to be the one that consumes the most, then the 14 billion FP8, and then finally the 1.3. So if you're working with 16 gigs or less, or even 24 or less, you're probably going to be using the 1.3. If you're at 24, you can probably swing the FP8. So that's the main model. In addition to that, you're going to also need this T5XXL FP16 text encoder. You'll also need the WAN 2.1 Vace to decode the videos. And if you are going to use it, you will also need the CosVid LoRa. Once again, I'll have links for all of that down below. Now we're going to go through where you need to put those models. This is the folder structure over on Runpod. This will be exactly the same as the folder structure on your own machine, whether you're using it on Linux, Mac, or Windows. The main thing here is in your ComfyUI folder, you want to go to the models folder and you want to put your models in the following place. For the main Phantom model, whether you're using the 14B or the 1.3B, that's going to go here in the Diffusions model folder. You can see I've got here the Phantom Wan 14B. The XXL model is going to go in the text encoders folder, which is down over here. Your Vace is going to go in your Vace folder. And the CosVid LoRa is, of course, going to go here in the LoRa's folder. And that's just about it. You just need those 4 models. Coming back to ComfyUI, this is the standard workflow with a few minor modifications from me. Let's go through it pretty quickly so you have an understanding of what's what and how the workflow works. It looks like a lot, but it's pretty simple. So stick with me. The version I release, I will probably group things up a little bit better just to make it easier to understand. So let's first start with what's happening in this corner over here on the bottom left. This is where you set your starting images. We've got our image number 1, image number 2, and all that's happening here is we're just putting the images through a couple of resizing nodes just to make sure that the model gets an image size and format that it can work with. And to keep things consistent, we have our width and height over here. And what this node does is it feeds the same height and width into the 2 nodes so that the 2 reference images have the same width and height. Those then go into a WAN video encode, which accepts the image and the Vace over here. And what that's doing is it's turning the images into latent samples so it can go into other nodes. As you can see here, the 2 samples go into this WAN video Phantom embeds, and you can see here that it can actually accept 4 latents. So we can replicate this exact same flow 2 more times to get up to 4 inputs. Then over here, we're also setting the number of frames, so the length of the video, as well as the CFG and a start and end %. You typically don't want to touch these unless you're doing some experimental stuff, but basically what you're saying is when you want to start applying the Phantom model and when you want to end it. Once we have those images as embeds, they go straight into the WAN video sampler. And this is the equivalent of our K sampler. Then over here in the red nodes, we have our text prompts. So let's look at it a little bit more closely. We've got our text encoder set over here. I've got it set at BF16, and that feeds into this WAN video text encode. We see here T5, T5, and we put our positive prompt up here, and we put our negative prompt down here. There's some existing Chinese negative prompting, which works pretty well. However, you can swap it out with your own. Those text embeds then go into the text embeds node over here, along with the image embeds we covered earlier. Right above that, we've got this collection of purple nodes, which is where we load up the WAN model. As you can see here, I've got the 14 billion FP6, but if you would have the FP8 or the 1.3, you'd set it over here. Make sure that you pick the equivalent precision of the version of the model you're using. And if you're using the CosVid LoRa, you can go ahead and set it over here and plug it into LoRa. Now, in case you're wondering what CosVid does, CosVid is a bit like Tcache. Again, if you don't know what that is, I have a video covering that down below. And what it does is it allows the model to generate with a significantly reduced number of steps while maintaining cohesion and quality. So that means that instead of having to generate each frame with 25 steps, you can cut it down to 8, 10, or 12, which can reduce your generation time by as much as half. On top of that, there is this WAN video block swap option, which is especially useful if you've got low VRAM. What this allows you to do is basically break up the generation. So let's say that the generation requires 16 gigs of VRAM. It will break it up into two sets where it will do half of it first, then unload and reload the other half so that you can work with less VRAM at the cost of more time. So like I said earlier, if it takes you 5 minutes to do it with 16 gigs, but you've only got 8 gigs, using a block swap will allow you to do it in maybe double or triple the time. The main parameter you need to mess with here is blocks to swap. You are typically going to want to try anything between 20, 30, or 40. Try and do it in sets of 10. And if you are using block swap, go ahead and plug that in here to the block swap arguments. However, if you're on Runpod, there's really no reason for you to not use a more powerful GPU, so you really don't need that. Once we've got that picked, plug that in over here to models. Now, in addition to that, we have two other nodes that can help with performance. However, I'll come back to those over at the end, as well as recap what we've just covered so that it's easy for those of you that are specifically looking for performance enhancements. Again, chapters are down below. So now that we've set our model, image embeds, text embeds, that just leaves the cache arguments option, which is up here, and that's basically an input for Tcache, which, like CosVid, helps you work with less steps and generate faster while maintaining 80 to 90% of the quality. Then over here, we've got the WAN video sampler parameters, and there's a few important things you need to set here depending on how you're generating. If you're not using the CosVid LoRa, stick to 25 to 30 steps. Keep in mind that will drive your generation time up to as long as 8 to 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. If you are using the CosVid LoRa, you can bring this down to as low as 8, maybe 10. I like to use 12. For your CFG, same thing. If you're using CosVid, keep this to 1. Otherwise, 7.5 is a good starting point. I don't usually touch shift. By default, we have a fixed seed. So if you want to generate multiple generations and you're wondering why nothing is changing, come here and set this to random. Then we can pick our scheduler. Again, if you're using CosVid, make sure you use FlowWatch CosVid, otherwise you will not get that reduction in time. And I typically leave the rest of the parameters as is. From here, the samples feed into a WAN video decode. Again, I generally don't touch these parameters, and the Vace feeds into this as well. Our images go out into this concatenate, which you can actually get rid of. It's very optional. The purpose of this is to just show you one of the subject images underneath the video. I personally find it annoying. I always get rid of it, as when you try and save the video, it's going to have that image on the top. And that's pretty much it. I'll show you guys a couple of videos of what Phantom looks like from the ComfyUI generations. And you can see here in this example where I've got our red head from earlier talking about a can. I put the subject as the can and the redhead. And there are a few issues. This is generated with Cosvid, and you can see that it kind of flickers a little bit here at the beginning. And overall, the video does look good, but I do see it a little bit more contrasty than if I were using it over on KaijuGen in an unquantized manner. But you can see here the example I mentioned earlier, where we've got the image at the top and then the video down at the bottom. This is another example from ComfyUI, and it didn't quite pick up Lydia the way that I wanted to. You can see here that the prompt was supposed to be two women walking down the street, and the second character here does not look like Lydia. Our first character looks great, and we did not get that flickering that happens at the beginning. And overall, the quality is great. I did not use Cosvid on this video, but you can see it still missed out on the contextual component. And this is what happens if you forget to set your sampler correctly. And that's pretty much it. So before we finish up, I'm just going to go over all of the options that you have to try and squeeze out the maximum performance from Phantom. So we'll just go over what we mentioned earlier. You've got the Cosvid option over here. Make sure that you've got that plugged in, and make sure that you're using Tcache over here. In addition to that, there's a few other things that you can do. You've got the block swap option, which, as I mentioned earlier, helps you work with less VRAM. So make sure you plug that into block swap arguments. You also have this WAN video VRAM management. And what this does is it will allow you to offload some of the VRAM requirements over to your RAM. So if you are using this one, make sure you plug that in, and you can offload the percentage. You'll probably need to run a initial run to see if your GPU can handle it and how much it's failing at. But a good place to start is maybe 20%, and if you're still failing, increase that until you get the desired result. Keep in mind, whatever you offset to RAM is going to run a lot slower. So that could drive up your generation times to as long as maybe 20 or even 30 minutes. Then we have this option over here, which is the WAN video torch compile settings. You can plug that in over here to compile arguments, and this one is only useful if you've got Triton installed. This is a little bit more complicated to explain and is outside the scope of this video, but just know that if you're working with a virtual environment, this should be relatively easy. Just open your terminal and do pip install Triton. If it installs with no issues, go ahead and use this. I'm not sure if there are issues with Windows. The other thing you can also do is if you have Sage Attention installed, over here on the WAN video model loader, you can click Sage Attention, and that will also reduce your generation time quite a bit. Alternatively, if you've got the latest nightly PyTorch, this is probably going to be something just for Linux or Windows users, you can also make sure that you use FP16 fast. However, as it says right here, you need the nightly PyTorch option. That's another way you can get a little bit more speed out of it. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please do like and subscribe down below. And if you really want to support the channel, please do consider supporting me on Patreon or give KaijuGen a try. If you've used it recently and there have been a couple of issues, I work on this almost every day, and I put out daily patches and fixes. If you have any problems, lost generations, or anything at all, please do message me. I do try and attend to everything. As I mentioned earlier, I am also working on a WAN video suite that I want to make available free to everyone. However, to get to that faster, I do need a little bit of support so I can put more resources towards it. So if you're interested in that, please do consider supporting me. Finally, please do come by our Discord channel. I'm always happy to answer questions over there, and generally people are pretty active in helping you figure out what your problems are. We also have a sharing section where I love to see the work that you guys are creating, as well as receive feedback on KaijuGen and other projects that I've got going on. Thanks so much. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.